Wayne Button, our book reviewer, is here to give us his Friday find. And of course, Wayne Walsh, our TV watcher, will be here in a few moments. Now, both of them have been inspired by youth this week. Wayne, you just read a book called Newfoundland, or it's a Newfoundland kids book rather, called You're Some Crooked. Quirky Words from Newfoundland and Labrador by niece Moland. We've got a clip of you reading that to your niece Nora and nephew Cam.
Hey Cam.
Hi.
You got some time I can read you and Nora a book?
Yeah, we got loads of time.
So this book is called You're Some Crooked.
Okay.
It's all Newfoundland terms. In Newfoundland and Labrador, a place along the ocean shore, some words you might not understand in this unique and special land. Perhaps you'd like to learn a few, like doughboy, chummy, and whole slew. Read on. Do you know any of those words, Cam?
No.
You don't know any of them?
No, none.
Let's try this one then, okay? If you're grumpy, sour, and snappy, and you're cranky and unhappy, your lovely smile is upside down. It's turned into an angry frown. If you are in a nasty mood and only feel like being rude, you're crooked. You know how we used to say Aunt Shannon's cranky?
Grumpy.
Well, you say crooked. If food's no longer good to eat, reminding you of smelly feet, the sour smell is kind of sickly, and your stomach's turning quickly. When sticky food is sort of rotten, and your appetite's forgotten, it's Fausty. Do you know what that word is?
Disgusting.
That's close. Nora, do you know what word that is? No?
I know. Yucky. Yucky.
Like your feet.
Stinky.
Stinky, exactly, yeah.
And that, of course, is Wayne Button speaking to his niece Nora and nephew Cam, reading the book over, I guess it was FaceTime or Skype, was it, Wayne?
Yeah, I just did it over FaceTime. I wanted to actually read it to some younger kids because I wanted to get a vibe and reaction to how they liked it or didn't like it and stuff like that. And it was good. It created some funny dialogue for sure.
It sounds like it. And you can hear the kids really enjoyed that book. So what brought you to the title?
Well, first of all, it's just funny. Like, You're Some Crooked. Quirky words from Newfoundland and Labrador. Very funny illustration at the front of it as well, because we were looking through multiple kids' books, and I thought this was a good one to do. It's a very nice little poetic style type book that allows people to expose their kids to, or their grandkids or niece or nephew, to different Newfoundland terms that they may hear. But it creates some funny dialogue because, like I said, at the end of every page, I would read the poem and I would say the word, and then I would say, what do you think that means based on what you heard? And it was interpreted pretty well. Like, they said Fausty was disgusting or was stinky, so they got a good idea of it. So it's a cute little book like that grandparents, my niece and nephew are in New Brunswick, so they always crack up when I say Newfoundland terms. And so it was a good little book to, play off them a little bit. And there was even some terms there, I won't lie, I never heard of before, like bivering and mozzie. Never heard those words used before, so I learned a little bit as well.
So it's a good book for everyone by the sounds of it.
That's right.
So what do you know about the author, Niece Moland, and why she wrote the book?
Yeah, it was very interesting because even though it is just a kid's book, I still like to look up the author every book I review and try to find out their story. And she has a very interesting story. She actually, her hometown a couple of years back was doing Come Home Year, and everybody was doing different things to raise money for the Come Home Year. So she started a website kind of with some illustrations. Eventually that led to her doing a book to raise money for the local church. CBC, your network, I guess, did an interview with her, and it kind of took off from there, where I think a publisher reached out to her, and she started writing kids' books just on a whim, and I think she has 7 different publications now. So it's a nice little story where she just did it for fun, and she was good at drawing, and now she has kids' books. It was a really good story.
Now, Wayne, I understand this is part of a series of youth-oriented books that you're going to be presenting to us here on Labrador Morning?
That's right. Yeah, I have 4 different books. 3 are Newfoundland origin, and the other one I kind of want to do a little bit of a different one that's extremely popular on the websites and stuff. So we're going to do 4 different books. I'm going to read them to my niece and nephew every week, and then at the end, I'm going to ask them what they thought was their favorite book out of all 4.
And of course, we're encouraging youth listeners out there to get in on those books as well. What's the next one in the series?
One is about, I don't have it in front of me, but it's about a kitchen party. So it's a little girl that goes to her nan's house to find this crazy kitchen party that's happening.
It's quite the break from your regular reviews.
Yeah, it is a break, actually. This allows me to have a little fun with my niece and nephew because I read to them every time I go out to visit. So this allows me virtually to connect with them every week or so and read. And it gives me a break from some of the more serious books, but allows me to catch up a little bit, too. I'll have lots of serious books for you, adult books, when we get back to it come August.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more of your youth-oriented ones. Thanks so much, Wayne.
No problem, Janice. You have a good day.
You too. And that's Wayne Button, our book reviewer here on Labrador Morning.
Did we do anything after this?
Funny feeling we did.
We were watching TV. Watching TV. We were watching TV. Watching TV.
And now Wayne Walsh is also serving up some youth content this week. He's been exploring the teen years, specifically his own. He's got a music documentary to suggest. Good morning, Wayne.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Thanks for asking. So what's the name of the documentary?
Okay, there's 2 of them pretty much today that both take around the same era that were pretty big when I grew up. One of them is called Soaked in Bleach, which is another look at the Nirvana passing away of Kurt Cobain back in the 90s. And the second one came out last Friday. It's only a week old, but it's been on the talks of the internet for a long time. It's called All I Can Say, which is a Shannon Hoon filmed and documentary on the actual time of Blind Melon. It was another big band during the 80s. So when we're talking about kids today singing today's, it would be kids from the 90s that would really dig these shows.
Well, I certainly remember both bands, listening to them. Can you remind listeners, though, who Blind Melon were and why Shannon Hoon was so popular in the 90s?
Well, I guess the one that would get most people mind running back is the B-Girl. It was a staple for the album and the song No Rain. They had so many big hits from Changes to Walk to just Go On Galaxy. I was a big fan, still a big fan. But the big thing about the All I Can Say is that this started with Shannon Hoon before he was famous. He was just a kid living in Indiana. He had a video camera, and the whole film is completely done by Shannon Hoon himself.
Wow, that makes it very interesting. Why do you think that Shannon deserves deserves a documentary?
Because Blind Melon kind of changed the way you looked at the music. It was kind of folky, but still fit in with the 90s the way it was so great. When you see the No Rain song, everybody knows all the words. They see the B-Girl and they see her dancing around, and it was almost thought of as someone who, the B-Girl was someone positive that didn't matter about image. She was having fun, and that's what they showed. But Blind Melon and Shannon Hoon go down because they had the tragic deaths such an early time before their careers really took off. Blind Melon were such a big band, and just the way you see the story come out from where Shannon Hoon was from Indiana, who was also another big name from Indiana was Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. So they got their little hit. Shannon Hoon actually sung backup on Don't Cry by Guns N' Roses. So from there, they were kind of interacting with the music business, and Blind Melon were signed to a record with only having 5 songs. They kind of were a big hit real quick.
Wayne, how do both of these documentaries link to your childhood?
Well, I would say that I got my first guitar 24 years ago, which would probably be right around the time Nirvana was coming out. I remember myself and some high school or junior high friends at the time were trying to start a band to do Nirvana songs, and Blind Melon came along with that. But recently this week, I just wanted to put a little shout out there to a Facebook group called Lab City Casino, or 90s Lab City Casino Kids. And what you're seeing now is a lot of people from all over the world who grew up here in Labrador West, or someone who visited here, maybe they're from Goose Bay. But it's a more Labrador thing that you're just going to see all these names and pictures flooding back. So once I started watching these Facebook group and these pictures and all that, it started to bring me back into the time of the casino days, pool hall days, where it was such a staple in Labrador City. So I kind of got a little bit sentimental in the way that, you know, I started thinking about the music and what was going on back then. There's even people on that page that made playlists that would go along with the jukebox that was playing it all the time. So my two back in the day were Nirvana, and it just so happened that the Blind Melon, All I Can Say documentary was released last week because it was originally a Kickstarter. And it took 2,400 hours of video that Shannon Hoon had. So like his video camera was his best friend, and they made a motion picture out of it. So they're just a little bit hard to get to, and you'd probably be a pretty hardcore fan to get into them.
Well, I certainly want to see this documentary, so where can we find it?
Okay, so Soaked in Bleach is the Nirvana one, and that's found on Prime. That focuses mostly on a private investigator with recorded conversations with Courtney Love. And it's a pretty different kind of look at it. And even if you're not a Nirvana fan, that show will give the any kind of crime person who likes to look at evidence and so on and conspiracy kind of thing, and you can make up your own opinion. But the Soaked in Bleach one was it's actually released online. So, like I say, as a hardcore fan, it's at the www. I would go into Google, type in All I Can Say, and you'll see allIcanSay.oscilloscope.net. Now, it's a rental because it's brand new, but if you're a fan of that era and that band, it's nice to see those old days, whether it be the clothes or how you acted or how the music was played. And you'll see a couple bits where Shannon Hoon's actually writing songs by himself, and it's he's been gone for so long. It's just such a special character and someone big from the 90s that people were pretty involved with, who died at 28, so his best was probably yet to come. Same as Cobain's part of the 27 Club and so on.
Well, it's certainly going to be one that I'm sure a lot of listeners will stream. Thanks so much for telling us about both of these documentaries.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope people enjoy them.
And Wayne Walsh, of course, is our TV watcher. And thanks for telling us about All I Can Say, which is the intimate video diary of Shannon Hoon.